what are some key things that companies with successful type 1 audits may struggle with when it comes to their SOC 2 type 2? Tim, we'll let you finish us off with this one.
I think it's sustaining controls. That's what makes the SOC 2 type 2 like much more robust. It's not just saying you can do something once, but that you can repeat it over time, so that you can run your vulnerability scans monthly or quarterly. It's not just saying, oh, the auditor's here for a type 1, let me go run a scan and see what happens. It's making sure that that schedule is occurring and that you're running it, that, you know, your security, you know, compliance or security steering committee is meeting on that quarterly basis and kind of keeping things going. So it's kind of important to set up a schedule of events that recur over that 6-month or 12-month period for the type 2 and kind of adhere to it. Because, you know, if we come asking for evidence that for X month you ran a vulnerability scan and you don't have it, like, it's not like something you can get out of. So I think, you know, thinking about what's going to reoccur and sticking to that.
Yeah, that's a good. I think you nailed it with the sustaining of controls. And you know, you do a type 1, that's great, but the type 2 is going to cover that period of time, you know, 6 to 12 months. And when an auditor comes in, if in month 1 of the type 2 audit period you had controls failing, well, there's a potential for a failure. Whereas in a type 1, you really only need it the day of, right? You could actually have been failing the day before and still get issued an audit report, no exceptions noted, and no one knows the difference. But a type 2 is completely different because it's covering that period of time. So that is a very important aspect to focus on. And I think too, in a type 1, you can get away with probably just showing policies a lot to evidence controls. Whereas when you get to that operational effectiveness in a type 2, you actually have to show more than just the policy. You have to show like the operating effectiveness of that control with supporting evidence of the control, either a configuration or the actual, like, taking samples from a population of new hires over a period of time and showing security training, background checks, you know, things of that nature. So there's definitely more room for error in a type 2. And I think depending on, it's very subjective for the auditor that you're working with. Some in a type 1 will kind of do a better job of preparing you, so to speak, for that type 2 and understanding like, hey, we did this in a type 1, but just so you're aware, in a type 2, we're going to need to dig a little deeper. And here's some things we might look at where, you know, if you're just have an auditor that just kind of looked at policies and just really didn't prepare you well, you could be caught off guard. So I think it's an important question to ask your auditor. That question that Ashley just asked me and Tim, ask your auditor when you do a type 1, like, what are the biggest differences for a type 2 that could throw me off or could catch me off guard?
I mean, I'll kind of put this out there, you know, because I know we're almost out of time. Ask for the type 2 request list so you know what you'll need to provide. Like, you know, have yours, say to your auditor, what are you going to ask me for the type 2? Can you show me that request list? Start, you know, looking through it if they don't review it with you and say, do I have this evidence, or do I have, they're gonna ask for a sample of this. So can I prove for every time this happened that it occurred? So yeah, ask for that request list. I think it's a good practice.
Yep. Don't be shy with your auditor.
Absolutely. And I think that highlights a key point we see on the customer success side of Drata every day, the importance of selecting an auditor you're comfortable with and can talk to and have a conversation with. So we're always happy to help direct you there. And at the same time, when you do get that request list from your auditor, if you're a Drata customer, share it with your CSM, who can help you to dig a little deeper. They'll probably pull Troy in or one of our other compliance friends to support there. But we're always here to help